once again, my dear brothers and sisters. I'm super excited to be joining you once again for our weekly Dominion series as we try to look for solutions as how we can emancipate ourselves from the shackles of poverty. The theme that we are considering in the next coming few weeks relates to the power of the village economic model as a tool for poverty eradication, the concept of country living, what other benefits do we derive, what systems that were there which we can try to learn from today so that we derive maximum benefit. Last week we considered the livestock production, and this week we'll be considering the crop production system as a tool that was used by the village model. My name is Willard Madzimbamuto, and I'm happy that we meet yet once again as we continue to interact and share more ideas in this particular subject. Now, again, at the center of the village economic system was crop production. And one powerful concept that we considered back then was that vanhu vairima zvakanyanya, vairima chibage, vairima nzungu, vairima nyimo, vairima mapfunde, vairima zviyo, vairima mpunga, vairima nyemba. So the system or the concept of crop production was at the core of the village economic model. Now, zvese zvairimwa nevanhu zvaibatsira nekusevha mapurposes akawanda. Number one, vanhu vaiti kana varima vaitengesa, vowana mari, votengawo zvimwe zvinhu zvavaisakwanisa kurima kana kuprodusa vari kumusha. So in other words, the village economic model took advantage of what it had and what it could do so that it could produce and dispose of through selling zvinezvi, so that they could also achieve vaikwanisa kutenga zvinhu zvavaisakwanisa kunge vachiprodusa ivo pachezvavo. The other consideration is that kurimwa kwese uku kwakabatsirawo again a powerful health system, a balanced diet, because vanhu vaidya. It involved a lot of heavy manual work, but because of production yanga iri serious, vanhu vaidya chikafu chakawanda and vaidya vachiramba vakagwinya because it was varied. Chibage, mpunga, you name it. Saka zvese izvi zvaifoma the base of the village economic model. And what I would want to emphasize is, again, this was a system again that was all encompassing. Vanhu vese vakuvana vadiki zvichienda kuvanhu vakuru, they participated together in trying to create a powerful concept. So this was the manner in which the village economic model, insofar as crop production was concerned, addressed the poverty crisis. Saka kwanga kusina nzara, they dealt with hunger, they dealt with starvation. This was the concept therein, because hard work was part and parcel of the DNA of the village. So those are zvatinoona in terms of how this system was all about. Now, the village economic model from a crop production perspective taught 6 critical lessons. There were principles which I prefer to call gems. Zvaidzidzwa zvatinogona kudzidza from that particular model. And some of these principles remain relevant even today. Now, number one, the system of intensive production. Now, if you take a look mukati mema environments akawanda in most rural communities, nzvimbo dzacho hadzina kukura, they are not commercial farms per se, but 1 hectare, 2 hectares, 3 acres, 4 acres, 5 acres. So within that area, ndo panga paivakwa dzimba, ndo panga paine minda, uye zvekare vachiita work on mafuro for the livestock that was there. But the concept is, even from those small patches of land, there was intensive productivity. Saka chikafu chairimwa not only for subsistence purposes in most rural areas, but even for commercial purposes, kuti vanhu vaitorima vochengeta chekudya, vowana chekudya. Then there is also surplus yavaikwanisa kutengesa. And what is the key principle that we can learn even today? It's not the size of the resources, the amount of the resources that you have, but it's the extent of how you are able to maximize and use the little that you have to your maximum benefit. You know, I recently was looking at some farmers in Denmark and Netherlands who are into horticulture. some of the land that they have haina kukura, but there's intensive production through my greenhouses in those small pieces of land, and they are producing not only for Netherlands but even for the European market from small pieces of land. So this is the concept that the village model taught. Small pieces of land but intensive production, and this is a principle that applies virtually in every facet of business. Every business that you can venture into, intensive productivity is very, very key, and as it promotes more of efficiency than kuramba munhu angori nezvinhu zvakawanda. So this was again a powerful gem taught by the village economic model insofar as the productivity of crops was concerned. Now, the second principle that we can learn from the village system economic model was that a good harvest was enough to take the family even for 2 years, assuming kuti havana zvimwe zvavarima in the next year. Now, ipfungwa ipi yatiri kubuditsa panapa? Vanhu vaiti vakarima, remember from point number 1, we're looking at intensive productivity on small pieces of land. But even on those small pieces of land, on a good harvest, vanhu vaigona kukohwa, vochengeta mudura, that was the storehouse. Chikafu chaikwanisa kuvachengeta even for 2 years, assuming that the next year quite a drought really severe havana kurima. Now, I try to contrast this with the kind of life that most of us are living in the city today. Just a reference of the COVID pandemic. Vanhu vakavharirwa mudzimba not for a full month, but just 2 weeks of a total lockdown. Kuti hapana ari kubuda mumba. There was chaos and disaster. In other words, people were prepared to break all the lockdown regulations kuenda kunotsvaga chikafu. Now, this is the deceptive mode of an urban setup. You cannot store supplies for more than 2 weeks. In fact, ukatoona vanhu vekuti vanotenga grocery for a whole month, vekuti vanoita 1 month vasina kupinda mushop, vanhu ivavo vatori vanhu vapfumi vemhando yepamusoro-soro. Vazhinji, 80 to 90% of people cannot buy and stock food for 30 days. But the village economic model, zvitori possible kuti munogona kutoita 2 months musina kupinda mushop. Munogona kutoita 30 days musina kupinda mushop. But in the city, you can't go for 30 days without setting your foot into a supermarket, into a shop. We long to establish projects, enterprises, businesses, dzekuti pagore raunogona kuita mari zvakanaka, you can go for the next 2-3 years. And this was the concept taught and demonstrated by the village. Now, the third principle that I would want to share with you that was taught again by the village is what I call probably the seed concept. Vazhinji venyu munoinzwisisa. On a good year, vanhu vachinge varima, zvimwe zvaiitika ndezvekuti the best seed or the best harvest, mbeu yakanaka kana mapedza kurima, let's say for example chibage, pachibage chakanaka paitorwa mbeu yaichengetwa for the coming season. Now, very important lessons that we derive from there. Number 1, the village system was very much disciplined to such an extent that it was unheard of in the village kuti maidya zvese zvamawana. Now, I try to contrast with our day, Nasi, in the capital. Not only are we chewing everything, but apart from chewing everything, we are sunk in debt. In other words, we operate from the minus, from the negative. We can't survive from that which we are getting. So it's a problem at a family level. Unfortunately, it's also a problem even at a national level. That's why you're not even in Yeka. Supplementary budgets, even because we can't operate with the seed concept mentality. We must be disciplined to such an extent that our lifestyle should fit in a concept very much advocated by the village. Then the second point, even within the context of the seed concept yatiri kukurukura now, zvaibatsirawo zvekare kuti seed yaya vanhu havachainkeya mari dzakawanda, saka they would protect themselves from a lot of other expenses that they would incur, and as a result, zvai benefited the concept of the village economy. And as I'm saying, these principles apply with equal force in every business enterprise. But whatever that you get, do not consume everything. There is always a seed, pane mhodzi inofana kudyarwa kuramba to maintain perpetuity in any business setup. Now, the fourth point, gem, from a crop production system is that the whole system was all encompassing. Hakuna aisara. Saka zvinhu zvaitoitika ndezvekuti kumba kwaigona kusara kusina munhu mese muchitoenda kumunda. Even netucheche twaisanoshanda, but tucheche twaenda kumunda nana mai vacho. Then paino vamwe vasikana vechidiki nekuti ndo vaizonosara vachichengeta tucheche, vakuru vachishanda. So hakuna anga asingaende kumunda. Tucheche twaitoenda kumunda, even kana vakaenda pasi pemumvuri, then tuvana tudiki ndo twainzi chichengeta vana tambai nevana, then vakuru vachiita the actual work. So it was all encompassing, it was interconnected in its inclusivity, pakuti everyone in one way or the other was involved in the production model. A very important concept. Saka zvaibatsira to instill a sense of togetherness, a sense of identity, a sense of yekuprotecta zvinhu, to guard zvinhu jealously, kuti once we participate together in the production, even kamudyiro kacho kanga kaine discipline, because it was all encompassing. You then try to contrast with an urban setup today. You will find only the father is involved in the productivity of issues that are taking care of the family. You find only the mother, or you find only the father and the mother. Vana, they are only consumers. But the village model was smart in the sense that it instilled a productive mindset first before the consumer came. Saka tisati tadya chaitanga kushanda. This was the concept that was being instilled in the village model. And I want to suggest that most of the challenges that you're facing in the urban centers today, it's as a result of a changed model whereby people are consumers before they learn productivity. Saka avana some form of responsibility. Why? Because it's a consumer mindset, apana productivity. And total disaster arises, especially when the breadwinner dies. That's why you see with the issue of a breadwinner is only mentioned in an urban setup. With a breadwinner afa, a breadwinner abuda basa. These are the challenges. Nzara yakutopinda, vana kana vanga vari kuzvikoro zvikuru vakutodzoka, kana vanga vachigara in a company house vakutobuda. But in the village, hakuna breadwinner. Baba vaishanda, mai vaishanda, vana vaishanda. Even baba vakafa, mhuri yaisara ichirarama, because the concept of work was all inclusive, and hence a formidable economic model was created by the village. Now, the fifth concept that I enjoy to share from the same system is that vana vaidzidziswa productivity from a very young age. In other words, the village model believed in educating the head, that is intellectual development. That's why I'm trying to hakuna kumusha kwawaienda kwanga kusina emphasis in education. Even if madhara acho vanga vasina kudzidza kana chemberi dzacho dzasina chikoro chakawanda, but they tried their level best kutsimbidzira kuti vana vaende kuzvikoro. They believed in education, they believed in exposure, but above all, they believed in manual physical training. So the village model educated the head and the hand. Saka that's why you would see kuti before waenda kuchikoro, you were taught productivity. In other areas, maitanga matoenda kumunda musati maenda kuchikoro. Chiri kudzidziswa apa ndechekuti you must be a producer first, you must be productive first, you must learn all the principles of productivity before even development intellectually begins. Saka waizosara wazonyora zita rako kuti Willard Madzimbamuto, kugona kunyora zita 1, 7, 8 years, 6 years, but pa 4 years wanga wakutogona kutobata badza, pa 4 years wanga wakutogona kutina mombe, wanga wakutogona kudzora mombe. So productivity was paramount as a foundational base for young children before even they were taught intellectually to improve intellectually. And let me suggest that the crisis in most of our young people today is as a result of the urban setup has been very reckless to promote only intellectual goals. They have very good grades. Vari kupasa zvinotyisa. They are enrolling zvinotyisa. Look at all the universities in Zimbabwe operating at almost maximum capacity. Vana vamwe vari kutoshaya nzvimbo muzvikoro izvi. Vana vari kudzidza. There is nothing wrong with that. But there is everything wrong when a parent, when a guardian only emphasizes on intellectual ability at the expense of physical productivity. And kunyangwe vabereki vakasiyira vana zvese zvavanogona kuvasiyira, kana vasina kuvadzidzisa to train them physically, it's total disaster. But the village model, in its simplicity, was smart enough to cater for all these things. Now, the sixth and final principle from the village economic model, which I enjoy, is that it taught a principle whereby the cost of production was kept at a minimum low. Now, if there is a challenge in any business setup, is the complicated nature where you have the cost of production very high and the output is affected in terms of market stability. For example, munhu anofertilizer anotenga inodhura, anotenga mbeu inodhura, but paanozoda kuzotengesa zvaakohwa zvacho mari yacho zvinogona kunge zvakafladha mumarket. So you take the same concept into even a manufacturing sector or any business. The costs of production, they are very high. It affects the business. But the village taught a principle whereby the cost of production was to be kept at a bare minimum lowest. And how was this done? Number one, you would find kuti kana iri fertilizer, they would use manure. Manure aibva kupi aisatengwa aingocherwa mudanga because vanga vaine mombe kudhara, vanga vaine mbudzi, vanga vaine huku. Saka vaingotora manure ndo yainoiswa mukati meminda as fertilizer. Vaipinda musango vonotora murakwani zvakaorera uswa hwakaorera uya nemashizha akaorera aya to fertilize the soil. Then paseed vaisatenga kana vakakohwa vaichengeta mbeu from the best of the harvest. Kana vachirima production vaakurima minda yavo vaishandisa mombe dzavo dzavanotora mudanga or even to borrow from neighbors zvichienda zvakadaro. So you look at the village economic model, the system of production was interconnected and inputs were kept at a very minimum low phase. And hence, the village was able to create a powerful force. And this is a key principle in any business. When you fail to manage your inputs, when input is very high in terms of costs involved, obviously profit will be affected. Saka you then look at a village model, about 90% vaiproducer from their hands vachishandisa zvavanga vainazvo. Zvese izvi zvaibatsira to maintain a powerful base. Challenge yanetsa ndeyekuti people have neglected that system. They buy almost everything. They buy the seed, they buy the fertilizers, they buy the chemicals, they buy whatever that they are going to use in terms of productivity. Zvese izvi ndo problem zvaicreate. So even vanga vaine zvipfuwo kuruzevha zvaingosairira vachinodya masango, vachichengeta masango, huswa huchimera. That was the feeding, and upenyu huchitoenda mberi. Now, my dear brothers, these are the 6 key principles, gems, that we can derive, we can learn from the village economic model, especially when we look within the context of crop productivity, which is very, very important. And it's not going to kutibatsira upenyu hwedu hukaenda mberi if we take this as powerful lessons which we can try to improve in our lives, zvichifambawo, and we modify as we go. My challenge, my dear brothers, is my message is not the message as in the only way out of poverty, but it is part of the solution. I totally believe in one way or the other, Tese, we identify with the village. We identify with some form of land. When we start there, kana kumwe kwese kwaramba, kana capital yaramba, kana zvanetsa, there is a solid foundation inongoda kuti tichinje our mindset. And when we capitalize on this, I want to assure you, there is great potential in our villages, in our rural setups, in our farming communities, in the countryside to emancipate us from the shackles of poverty. And this is a call, a challenge that I want to place to each and every one of us to reconsider. When everything else appears not to be working, we can try this route and things may work well for us. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching. Let's interact more. Let's share ideas. Let's get that feedback so that we try to see how best we can create a powerful model out of what was taught by the village. And please don't forget to like our Facebook page and to subscribe to our YouTube channel and have Dominion, and follow us through on our social media handles, Twitter and Instagram. Till next week, thank you very much for watching.